Two MLS teams will be playing in the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. The question is, how much success do the Seattle Sounders and Inter Miami need in order to consider it a win for MLS? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to MLS Moves. Please help us out by liking this video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you enjoy the MLS content, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss any of my videos or live streams. I brought on my friend Cheyenne of the Rave Green TV to discuss what success looks like for these teams and the league. Now, on to the video. Cheyenne, my friend, welcome back to the channel. Last time you were here, we were previewing the Western Conference Final between the Galaxy and the Seattle Sounders. Didn't go as well as you'd like, but how have you been doing since then, my friend?
You know, that feels like a long time ago. Now we're in a new era called the off season, and honestly, it's not looking that much better. But I will say, the last time we spoke, I remember you and I forgot what his name was that was on from the LA Galaxy. Andrew, were like, "Oh, Sounders are going to get absolutely." I told you guys if the Sounders lose, it was going to be a narrow loss. It wasn't going to be by multiple goals, and that was the case. So I do want to give myself props on that.
Well, we are going to talk about something today that might not be as favorable to the Sounders.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to talk about the Club World Cup and talk about the chances for both of these teams, a little bit about maybe maximizing their performances there, and what would be considered successful for Major League Soccer as a league, because they're going toe-to-toe with other prominent teams from other great leagues around the world. So first off, let's pull up the group stage between these teams. Or for these teams, these MLS teams. We'll start off, we'll talk about the Sounders a little bit. Let's start off with Inter Miami. Inter Miami is playing against Palmeiras, FC Porto, Al Ahly, which is infamous in MLS circles because they're the team that bounced the Seattle Sounders in the 2023 Club World Cup, I think.
Yeah, 2023, yeah.
Yeah, 2023 Club World Cup, because 2022 is when they won the Champions League. And Inter Miami in the first group with an MLS team. Now, I personally think this is the most favorable group for an MLS team, and probably the most favorable group that they probably could have gotten realistically. How do you feel about Miami's chances in Group A?
I think, yes, you can say they're favorable, but I still don't think this group is that much of a cakewalk. I mean, Al Ahly are like the most decorated team in Africa. I mean, I think are the most successful team in African football history. They've won a plethora of trophies. Like, it's a ridiculous amount. FC Porto, obviously one of the greatest teams in Portugal. Obviously, they're going through a little bit of a rebuild phase right now. They won the league, I think it was 2 years ago. They fell off a little bit, but they're having a good title charge against Sporting Lisbon, who just recently had a coaching change. Palmeiras, I mean, really successful Brazilian club. Obviously, they aren't the best one, which is Botafogo right now, who we'll obviously get into talking about. But I would say, it's tough because Inter Miami and the Sounders were in pot 4, they realistically weren't going to get an easy group. But I guess when you compare it to the Sounders group, this one is a little bit easier. But even still, I don't think it's that straightforward, because when you look at Miami, they couldn't even beat Atlanta United in the playoffs. So it's like, I don't know, man. I'm not as confident in them as I was before.
Well, I'll say this, talking about their group specifically, Inter Miami obviously has several decorated players who played in very big games, World Cup winners. Actually, let's see, they've got 2 World Cup winners. I think Busquets, I don't think Alba played for the 2010
No,
Spain
but
team.
he's
I
a
think
Euro winner.
He's a 2-time Euro winner, if I'm not mistaken. I think because they won in 12 and I think they won in 16.
No, they won in 08 and
08.
12.
Okay, that's right. 08 and 12. That's right. Okay, but he's won the Euros. I think Busquets won the I think he was part of the 2010 World Cup team. I don't know if he played, but he was part of the team. Either way, they have players on this team who played in very big games, Champions League, World Cups, Euros, finals, all of that. And you have Messi on your team, so you have a chance, right? It really depends on what they do this offseason and see what they reinforce to give them a good chance. Because if they have a defense like they did in 2024, they're not going to have any chance of doing shit at this tournament. But I will say this: Palmeiras, Porto, Al Ali, good, formidable opponents. They are it's within reach to beat these teams. I'm not saying they will, but I would if I had to put my odds on the chances they could get out of the group, having to probably win one of these games and at a bare minimum have a draw with win one of these games. I don't think they have to win two. I think they can get a draw and I think they can advance in a win. I would probably say that there is a now you may think I'm crazy for this. I think there's a 50% chance that they get out of their group.
50?
50% chance, yes, because I think they're going to make a lot of have a lot of reinforcements come in. The team's going to be more organized, and I think that they're going to be as prepared as they can for this tournament.
I mean, yeah, I'm the thing is it is a little bit hypothetical, but as you said, I would be pretty confident in it. Obviously, there's going to be some question marks because Chris Henderson recently left for Atlanta United, and I think he was a big part reason why they had such great success in their transfer business. Because I would know firsthand, he was here at the Sounders, absolutely worked God's work out here, and now just out here crying about it. But you know, it will be dependent on what kind of reinforcements Inter Miami still bring in. I think what works in Miami's favor is one, that all the games will be in Miami, and two, because there's no straightforward first place team. I genuinely think Palmeiras, Porto, Oli, any of it can finish in that first to second place spots. And so thus I think the points will be nicely spread out. And so it may just come down to goal differential, yellow cards. Like that's what I'm saying, how close it could be between these teams. Because I don't think there's one outlying top of the group team. And again, I want to go back to this point. I don't think anyone should think this group is super straightforward for Miami. And the thing is like, I want Miami to do well because I want there to be at least a decent representative from MLS. But it's like, Al Ali have been in Club World Cups multiple times. They've won major African trophies. Porto have won the Champions League. Again, are going through a little bit of a rebuild phase, but are still a pretty good team. Like they're pretty well-rounded and they, have been able to be successful in major tournaments, except that was a long time ago. And Palmeiras, you can never count out a team from Brazil because, dude, when you play in the Copa Libertadores, you got that dog in you. Like, I think we all know, like, that shit is different gravy.
It is. No. I think that I think the Portuguese league and the Brazilian league are kind of one of like they're pretty damn close, right? I would say that it's honestly a trade-off. It's even. So yeah, I think that they will do pretty well in this tournament, Palmeiras and any Brazilian team. But let's move on to Group B. Other MLS team, Seattle Sounders, your team. Okay. Now this is where you're like, the shit is looking bleak, right? This is not looking good. This is like whoever was drawing the team's names at this point just absolutely had it out for the Seattle Sounders. Like it's some bad juju for the Seattle Sounders. They have to take on PSG, Atletico Madrid, and Botafogo. Three very formidable teams. Okay, so how are we feeling about that group?
What do you think I'm feeling like, Will?
Well, I think you probably have made calls for June to make sure that your shrink, your psychiatrist have their schedules cleared, making sure you have plenty of Kleenexes, let your girlfriend know that you might be on a sabbatical, all kinds of different things.
Yeah, horrendously down bad. I mean, one of the worst possible scenarios for the Sounders. The thing is, how I mentioned how I don't think there's a clear team that's going to finish in first place or any of those, knockout stage spots. There's not a clear one in this group, but I can tell you who's definitely not going to make it and who's probably going to be finishing the last place. And as sad as it is, it's probably going to be the Sounders because the goal in class is just, it's too much. Like for Inter Miami, there's a little bit of, because they have that star power. Who is the star power for the Sounders? Like, jeez Louise. I mean, I don't know, man. It could the thing is we've seen with the Sounders when they play against a good team in MLS, they don't play well. Imagine when they play against some of the best teams in the world and in Europe. Like, bro, you'd have to make a couple of big signings to make that happen. And we're already seeing
Jesus
so
Ferreira.
far. Yeah, see, that's my point. It's not looking good, bro. Like in all aspects, it's not looking good,
Well,
bro. So
and honestly, too, you have to think about this: a team, with no disrespect to Al Ali, right? Good team, like you said, one of the best African teams that there's been, but they pale in comparison to PSG, Atletico Madrid, uh, Botafogo. They pale in comparison to them, and they struggled against them in 2023. And you know the
and the
funny thing is,
and the team is not even that different from
it's
them
not even that
either.
different. So I was going to say the
No.
team, the core guys are still the same. Switch out Ladero for Pedro de la Vega and maybe the C tier USMNT guys, and this team is looking honestly pretty damn similar. And Botafogo, they just won the
Copa Libertadores, I believe.
Botafogo. Yeah, they just won the Copa Libertadores, right? They might not even make it out of the group stage. They probably won't.
And yeah,
And
they're on course to win the double right now. So it's
they're
like
so they might be the best team in South America, and they probably won't even make it out of their group stage.
I would argue, funnily enough, because I just released my video talking about this group on my channel, is I would argue that I think Atletico and Botafogo are the two strongest teams in this group. I think PSG, don't get me wrong, I still think are really good, but they're in a huge rebuilding phase from having the big names. Because just think about 2 years ago, Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, and obviously didn't work out. And now they're in a huge rebuilding phase where, you know, their big star players is Usman Dembele, Kangan Lee, and I forgot what the other guy's name was, Concalvo Ramos and whatnot. So it's like it's a shadow of what they used to be. I do like what they're trying to build now, but it's like they're not. I mean, and they're also struggling in the Champions League, obviously completely different competitions, but it's like they could piece it together at the end. This is the end of their season. It's a long ways to go, but it's like I do think the Botafogo and Atletico are going to be the two strongest teams. But again, as I said, it's super clear. Sounders are the odd men out in this. No question.
Yeah, I mean I don't think they'll even be lucky enough to get a draw. Hell, will they even score? I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know if they'll
oh
be able
my
to score.
God.
I don't even know if they'll be able to score a goal. But this kind of I wanted to hit those points about the groups and who they're playing, because the bigger question, and what I asked me of the show, what would be considered a success for an MLS club in this tournament? And before we get into it, I want you guys in the comment section to let me know what you would consider a success for the league in this tournament. Is it winning a game? Is it getting out of the group? Let me know what you guys think. But Cheyenne, what do you consider, or what would you consider success for the league in this tournament?
I think you got to look at it at both teams' perspectives. I think for Miami, I think based off of the global recognition and who they have on their team, you got to consider for them getting out of the group is a success, in my opinion. For Seattle, God knows what would be. I don't know. Getting a draw in one of the games. I think there's two different uh, sides of the coin for each team. I think for Inter Miami, they can have a legitimate chance of getting out just purely down to the star power that they have. They have players, like you said, that can change the game. Messi could have, and honestly, it could come down to just one win in that group. Inter Miami get one win, get another draw, they're through. We've seen that many, many times in these type of cup competitions. Seattle, they're definitely not getting a win. They'd be lucky to get a point. So it's like,
Lucky to get a goal.
that's what I'm saying. So it's like, that's how I would look at it. I mean, I don't know if you agree or disagree with me, but that's how I would view it.
Well, I'm not even gonna grade. I'm grading Seattle on a curve. I'm not even really considering them
Where's
in
the
this
curve?
equation. Well, I'm not even really, honestly, I'm not even probably even grading them at all. Not listen, no hate towards Seattle. You guys were just unfortunately given the toughest group in the whole tournament. So they're asking you to do something insane that would be hard. It would be, honestly, look at Miami's group, Porto and Palmeiras, the two other best teams in that group, right? Or the two best teams. Take them out and put them in Group B for Seattle, and they would struggle to get out of that group. And
I
they
was
have
gonna
way better teams.
I was gonna ask you, let's say if Seattle and Miami flipped groups, do you still think Seattle don't have a good chance?
No, because I would say the weakest team outside of the Major League Soccer team is Al Ali, and they manhandled the Sounders in 23. So they would have to do something they have not done before, on top of also taking down the Portuguese and Brazilian giants. And I just don't think that this team is equipped to do that. So as far as success in my estimation, right? I think that Miami has to just look like they belong. Seattle, they're just being asked to do something unthinkable. I feel very bad for them. Honestly, there's no hate. It's not even fair to really even, grade them on this because they would have to slay a giant, and they're just not equipped to do that right now. Nobody in MLS is probably equipped to do that right now. But Miami's group, it's more feasible because I don't think that the gap between a Brazilian team, a Portuguese team, and Miami is significant as a damn La Liga team, one of the best La Liga teams, the best French team, the best Brazilian team, like the best in all those leagues, or one of the best in all those leagues, at least in Brazil and France. That's doing the unthinkable. Miami, they get out of the group stage. I think that is a huge win for MLS. The last time we saw them in the Club World Cup, they got embarrassed in 2023 when Al Ali beat what was it? Was it 3-1 or was it 3-0?
For who?
When Al Ali beat Seattle.
It was just 1-0.
Was it 1-0? Okay, so it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But either way, it was an upset because I think the Sounders were expected to win that game, or at least there was a good chance that people felt pretty good that they could win that game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I felt confident when we played against Ali. Obviously, I remember the game quite well. When we, found out we're playing against them, X, Y, and Z, I obviously had to do my research. I didn't think Ali were going to be rollovers, but it's like kind of like how the game plan went. It's kind of like, I think you would understand and everyone else watching would understand. It's like we played like we did in the recent playoffs, playing very defensive, hoping we might get one chance on the attack, maybe, or hoping it would go to penalties, kind of just like the Galaxy game, for example. And that's pretty much what exactly happened. Actually, I would argue the Galaxy game is a pretty good example of Sounders' performance in the Club World Cup. Not really creating that many clear-cut chances. It's kind of just a stale game because Seattle are playing a lot more defensive. They're not going out of their shell that much. Al Ali get a half chance. Yes, it was a deflected, unlucky moment that it deflects off Alex Roldan. But the difference between the two teams is Al Ali brings in subs late in the game to go on to win the game, but Brian Schmetzer brings on subs to take it to extra time and play more defensive. And that's the difference between these type of teams. One team has firepower to go on and win the game and have the confidence in that, while the other team is like, we're going to try to play for the PK shootout because we don't have enough gumption to do it.
Yeah, and I think that Inter Miami is going to have a different approach than that. I think they're really going to try to just straight up win this game.
Yeah, of course.
So just to hit on a couple rumors of what they're trying to do, they're on the verge. This is going to be dropped the day after Christmas, so maybe he'll be signed by then. They're on the verge of signing an Argentine goalkeeper. They're going to upgrade from Drake Callender to someone who's got some pretty good experience in South America. Long overdue, yes. I think Drake Callender is overrated. They're going to sign probably 2 to 3 center backs, which they desperately need. And they're probably going to get some midfield depth and a backup striker. I think that could go a long way. If you they had no trouble at all scoring goals in 2024. They scored more goals than I think any other team in the league. And maybe the Galaxy scored more than them. But to be fair, Messi and Suarez missed 14, 15 games. If they played the whole season, they probably would have scored the most goals in the league if they hadn't already. You shore up that defense, that back line, right? And this team looks pretty scary. Everybody in MLS is, specifically would say, yeah, Miami can score 6 on you, but they can also give up 6. So if they can score like that and then also not concede goals, they could be a scary team. I think that they have a chance to, like I said, 50%. What is your percent chance of you thinking the Sounders and Miami get out of their group stage?
I thought you were just going to ask me Miami. I mean, it depends on who they bring in. If they're the thing is, I don't think the end all be all is the Club World Cup, but they're taking a lot more. They know they're playing in a bunch of cup competitions. They know they need to revamp some of their squad. They took last year as a disappointment, rightfully so. Let's say they bring in those guys. I think they have 30% chance of doing it. If they win the game against Al Ali, I think they get out of the group. I would be that confident. It all goes down to that. Seattle, 0.001. I hate saying it because I'm so pumped about this tournament, but it's just like we got dealt a bad hand. Things are not, obviously, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon for this transfer window, but things are not looking that great. I mean, we're looking to sign Jesus Ferreira and Paul Areola, which I think Ferreira's an okay signing at best. but it's like, dude, we've gone like a bunch of transfer windows with no signings. We haven't really replaced a lot of the squad. I mean, I've heard people talk about that it's not out of the realm of possibility that we can make Jordan Morris into a DP player, and I'm just like, what is going on? What is like what kind of like world are we living in? And it's just like I don't know what direction the Sounders are going in, and it's hurting my head. And I can't think about them facing off against these teams on top of that because it's just like the math equation is not it. It's like what is it? Oil and vinegar, they don't mix. This doesn't mix.
So I don't think that MLS did either of these teams any services.
Oh,
I think they did them a disservice by not maybe helping open up the purse strings a little bit. This is going to kick off. Well, actually, to be fair, Copa America really kicked off the American Soccer Tour, which is a 3-year event. I would consider 24, 25 with Club World Cup, and then 2026 finishing it with the World Cup. But they didn't do them any favors by kind of keeping it the status quo rules wise. Now, Miami did acquire $2.5 million in GAM from the Leo Campana trade to the New England Revolution to kind of play around with. And I think as of right now, they're number 3 in general allocation money. I don't remember where the Sounders were at the top of my head, but either way, are you disappointed that they didn't, Don Garber, the league, didn't maybe give these teams a little more financial flexibility? The league in general, not just these two for this tournament, but give these teams more financial flexibility so that they have a chance. We're talking about a group, Cheyenne, who don't have any financial limitations. They can spend whatever they want. PSG's whole fucking roster is DPs. Their whole roster is DPs. The whole
yeah.
team, they literally their whole team. Like I would honestly go out on a limb here, no joke, and say that PSG's worst player is probably 3 times better than the Sounders' best player.
Oh, 100%. And
3
I could
times
argue
better than
five times.
5
Five
times
times.
better. Yes. Yeah. Now Messi, on the other hand, he's the best player on Miami. He could probably play on any team in the world still. But more specifically, the Sounders, like I just don't understand why they didn't want to help their clubs look better in a tournament where there's going to be eyes on MLS that have never been on the league before.
No, I totally agree, and it's unfortunate all these roster constraints because I definitely think it hurts the league. And you could have you've known about this. I don't know how far in advance, but at least a year to 2 years, you could have made some more bigger changes, like what you did back in the day when Beckham wanted to come to MLS or when you wanted to get Beckham to the league. You made a big change. You knew about this tournament. You knew there was going to be 2 representatives in this tournament. You could have made a big change before this tournament, which would have benefited the whole league. But I mean, you've done 1,000 videos on it. No one here is happy about it. It's not ideal. I mean, but either way, even if we gave these teams more room, we know Miami would have capitalized on it, but would the Sounders have capitalized on that? Say they add an additional DP spot. Jordan Morris is going to be taking up that spot. Christian Roldan's going to take that role. So it's just like for the Sounders anyway. Obviously, I'm a little bit upset because it's like I don't like our squad that much. I think it's long overdue for a lot of changes. Miami, at least they're trying some stuff. Granted, their squad's old, but they got Messi, like Suarez,
You got a
like
chance, right? With those guys, you have a
yeah,
chance.
yep, exactly.
So, and you know what's sad too is you just talked about maybe lack of ambition with the Sounders. If this was 2018 and there were a loosening of the purse strings, like you had that mentality from 6 years ago when Garth was really cooking, and this is when Schmetzer really started to build his dynasty with the Sounders. I think it'd be a totally different
Whole different
conversation.
story.
Yeah,
100%. I was
but
thinking the same exact thing.
that was a lifetime ago, though. There's
Yeah.
new general manager, obviously, and your boy Craig Weibel. And Brian Schmetzer kind of just seems like he's just on cruise control at this time. I don't really know who he's banging the table for. But I have no fan of any. I'm not a fan of any team. I just cover the league. So any team succeeding in this tournament would be considered a success for me. So like I'm obviously rooting and hoping both teams do well. I feel better about Miami, like I said. I give Miami a 50% chance. I give the Sounders a 1% chance to advance out of the group. I wouldn't say it's, I mean, it's 1% is pretty damn bad, honestly, still. Um, we'll see what
More
happens,
generous than
man.
me.
We'll see. Now, people, you said you're excited about this. I've seen some people say they're not excited about this, but why wouldn't you be excited to see teams who never play each other, like South America? Brazil specifically feel like they're this, maybe the fifth best league in the world. Like if you take PSG out of the equation, the Brazilian fans think they're a better league than the French league. Now we get a chance to kind of measure and see how good these leagues are when they're competing. If they take it seriously, how good they are.
Yeah, I think I'm surprised MLS fans wouldn't be a big fan of this. I could understand if you're like a fan of the European clubs in it because it's like, oh, like the season's over. This is gonna like kill some of our players with injury X, Y, and Z. But I think it's a great opportunity for, American soccer fans to go out, show how much the sport has grown here. You get to go see your team, like, your Botafogo play against Atletico Madrid in a competitive match that actually matters. You get to go see Boca Juniors play Bayern Munich in a competitive match that actually matters. You get to go see Neymar face off against Real Madrid in a competitive match when you didn't think that was going to ever happen again. Like, I think that's cool, but I don't know. I think this tournament's pretty good. It's unfortunate how things have panned out for the Sounders. I think Miami, if you're an MLS fan, I hope that you want to root for them. You want to see good representation. And that's the one thing is I feel like the Sounders, and that even includes myself, is letting the league down in this tournament because everyone's going to be watching, regardless if you like it or don't like it. Everyone's going to be watching this Club World Cup. And I think the Sounders, and the thing is, they weren't even like Miami where they were invited. They were a legitimate team that earned their spot in it, but it doesn't look like it. It doesn't feel like it. They don't play like it. They're not like, they don't make the transfers that back that. They don't have the roster that backs that because it's like, I wouldn't even argue they're easily even a top 5 team in MLS right now. Like
That they're not a top 5 team in MLS? Yeah,
yeah.
they're not. I wouldn't say they are. I mean, I watched the league, and you watched the league extensively, and give a fair analysis of your own club. I wouldn't say that they're top 5.
That's
I'd
what I'm
say that
saying. So that's
they're
what
fringe
makes this
top
so
10.
disappointing. Yeah.
I mean,
So
I'm
it's like,
not insulting. There's 30 teams. Like I'm not saying they're bad. They're just not. They're not the Seattle Sounders of, like I said, 2015 to 2019. They're not the same team that we were accustomed to. And one thing I will critique about this tournament, right, is I do think that MLS needs to prioritize it because of who you're playing and kind of like on the stage you're on. But I will say this: I do want them to prioritize. How are we in 2024? And we have record spending, at least what we're told, right? And the quality has improved so much, yet we still fail to win our Champions League consistently. Your
yeah.
team is the only one to win it in the last 20 years. 24 years, I think, in MLS. The last time, I think the last one was the Galaxy or DC United back in 2002 when it was called something completely different. But the Sounders are the only team in the last 22, 23 years to win this tournament. And it's like we're kind of just sidestepping that. Like we're skipping a step. Like that was our goal originally, but now we're just kind of like, yeah, that doesn't even really matter anymore. Doesn't it feel like that? I
No,
mean, I
that's
feel like
true. No, it's true.
like
100%.
like
I
when do you
agree.
hear people talking about the Champions League anymore? The CONCACAF Champions League or Champions Cup?
I mean, personally, for me, it's like as an MLS fan, I've never even cared that much about it because of how it's scheduled. And that goes back to one of your videos is the MLS scheduling. It's so messed up because it's like, who wants to be having their first games before the regular season matches happen in the Champions Cup against teams from Guatemala and Honduras? Like, I'm not going to be excited about that. But say if it was during your season, once you've played like the normal Champions Leagues and UEFA and whatnot, and it's obviously hurt MLS so much, and it's so it's so crazy to think Sounders are the only team that have won it in the X amount of time. And I do think that's credit to the Sounders for creating their own luck. They bolstered a squad that could compete in it, but obviously I think we've been paying the price since then because the team hasn't changed at all, like really since we won it. I mean, I think Bar, Rui Diaz, and Ladero, and now Rui Diaz, the team's the exact same. It's still Fry, it's still Alex Roldan, still Yamar, still Reagan, still Nuhu, still Jao Paulo, still Christian Roldan, still Jordan Moore. Like, we're still the same team. So, yeah.
Well, I'll say this: I think MLS has a chance of maybe going on a run for the Champions League because they have 10 teams now. Like 10
Yeah, I
teams are in the
know.
Champions League.
Surely.
They should win it. But before I let you go, do you have any final thoughts? And also, where can people find you on YouTube, Twitter, X? Instagram. Where can people follow you at and find your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to watch my content where I talk about the Sounders, just Rave Green TV, YouTube, the best spot to be. I mean, you'll probably guys see my comment on this video, so just go there. I mean, I want to see MLS do well in this tournament. I'm a big fan of the league, just like yourself. I want to see it get better. I want to see ambition. I want to see the teams grow, and I do think slowly we're getting there. But I think the league needs to do a better job of giving us those opportunities to do well when we are given golden tickets like this upcoming Club World Cup. And I hope the Sounders and Inter Miami can do something good because I want to see MLS do pretty decently well. And yeah, we'll just have to see what happens.
We'll see what happens. June will be here before you know it. The time flies. And then the World Cup will be around the corner as well. I appreciate you coming on, my friend. I've been on your channel a couple times for the live stream emergency episodes. Had to return the favor, right? So yeah, go check out Rave Green TV. You'll probably see me there crashing out sometime this summer, maybe sooner than that. But until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.